For the next few weeks, I'm going to be filming from Mullumbimby, Australia. So please excuse me for doing this whole hippie thing, as I figure when in Rome, I may as well, do as the Romans do. So here I am, I'm just sort of matching the vibe of my surroundings. So anyway, cool. Anyway, I feel today's topic is a little bit risky for me to talk about, as there may be a lot of hard feelings around COVID, especially for DJs that had regular work pre-COVID. And I'd like to do basically a quick shout out to all the people that were involved in the industry pre-COVID. They're doing it tough. I'm not saying it's over for them. They've probably got a lot of opportunities if they have created relationships with their venues and stuff that they worked with. And I feel the venue's pain, I really do. I know of a ton of venue owners and event promoters that are itching to be able to work again, and they're doing it tough, right? And sometimes the governments are helping out in different places as well, venues, so they can reopen. I do think they're going to reopen, but when they do, right, well, can they afford the big DJs anymore, right? See, here's the thing, but first of all, will they return? And I've almost read many interviews, right, with DJs about their plans after COVID, and many are talking about not going back, right? Or a few people mentioned raising prices and playing less often, and the general vibe from current DJs seems to be understandably negative. I understand, I do. So here I am though to put a positive spin on it. Hopefully it's not too annoying, but I assure you, and I know for a fact, venues will be very eager to open their doors again. But at first it's going to be at a reduced capacity, which means smaller parties, which means basically from their perspective, they're going to have to keep their expenses down, which means they're not going to want to throw thousands of dollars on big name DJs, right? As the main reasons venues paid so much money for the big DJs was to attract a ton of people. But at first, at least until COVID is well and truly passed, they're not going to be able to pack their venues with people anyway, right? People are going to have to come, probably sit down and all that. So venues will be looking for more local talent. And I believe they're going to be very open to new DJs and fresh talent. See, the advantage of new DJs is, and what I mean by new DJs is, DJs that the venues may or may not have worked with before, that maybe they're kind of building their experience, as they're going to be considerably cheaper than the big name DJs. And now I know even from running events pre-COVID in Sydney that I kind of got sick of working with the big name DJs and their agencies, as they seemed solely motivated by money and what they could get from me, as opposed to the people turning up and what they could contribute to the scene. They're just playing a show and getting their money and leaving. So I opted long ago to just work with local DJs and focus on the local scene, as it means I wasn't paying all my profits, right, to agencies for booking well-known DJs that often did little more than turn up, play their set and bail, and other promoters out there will have experienced that, there's no doubt. Now, venues aren't going to want that anymore, and what this means is there's going to be a ton of opportunities for new DJs to break into the scene, and better yet, rebuild the scene. And once things are back to normal, these DJs that help with the rebuild stage will be the new residents in clubs all around the world. I'm sure of that. Now, this is where some haters though might jump in and say, well, how good can new DJs be? And but the thing is, right, I can get all my students to a point where they're talented enough to play live every single time. I know that from seeing my students play in Sydney. Now, I also provide resources on basically, doing the right research, preparing the right set for the crowd that you're playing, and basically how to build the atmosphere in the room. And I know personally, when I first started, from my own experience, my first ever DJ set was at the grand opening of the first event that I ever ran, and I honestly, went really well actually. And I went on to run my club event successfully with me as the resident and headlining DJ every single Friday night, right, for over 12 years. Now, I know I ran clubs longer, but that was my first club event, right? Now, trust me, new energy can be good for events, and anyone that tells you different is they're just justifying their own limiting beliefs, right? But so here's the thing anyway, the real question is, how do you get in? How do you get the shows? How do you be part of this new face of clubbing post-COVID? Now, I believe the best way to thrive in the local scene is to be part of it. Now, I also know from running events in Sydney, it wasn't like I woke up one day and thought, oh yeah, I want to run a nightclub. I had been going to clubs for some time and felt like I was part of the culture of the scene that I was immersed in. And by attending events, not only do you immerse yourself in the culture of the parties, but by doing so, it gives you ideas and inspiration. And this, in my opinion, is the lifeblood of any successful endeavor. So if you see a local event reopening their doors or starting to talk about opening, right, get down there or support them online, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and then make it an event out of it yourself. The more you can do to support them, the better that's going to go. Get to know the people running the parties and do what you can to support them. And then when you ask them for a show, instead of being some stranger, you've already established a relationship with the venue or the promoters. And this is going to increase your chances of them supporting you big time because you're supporting them. Now, the more we can change the mentality from what we can get, right? Especially in these times, we have to change it to what we can give. Now, the more opportunities will attract for you if you take this on. And trust me, I know this. Even now, post my clubbing days, the more I give here on my YouTube channel, the more people that become aware of me, and my course sales then are going really well. And from that, I'm getting loads of rave reviews, and I feel I'm contributing to the community and culture around DJing. And with any luck, I'm a contributing factor to the new wave of DJs playing at events post-COVID. Like, I'm behind my students. Now, I know this sounds like a lot of work for you, though, right? Going to all these events and all that, but again, it depends on how you look at it. See, trust me, the majority of people when approaching venues and promoters for shows, they're all messaging them saying there's some variation of, hey, you know, I see you've got a party, here's my mix, and they express an interest to play. And they wonder why the promoter or venue never gets back to them. But if you take the time to check out the venue and better yet approach working with venues with a sense of what you can do for them as opposed to what you can get for them, then the venues and the promoters are going to respond really well to that, as community and support is more important now than ever before. And that's your chance. See, let's face it, right? The venues, they've been doing it tough and they need all the help they can get. And I know for a fact they're sick of working with DJs that have a sense of entitlement, meaning the DJs that expect this and that, but outside of playing, they're willing to do very little to support the event. So I know post-COVID, there's not going to be a lot of room for DJs that think like that anymore. This is the old way of thinking. And there's going to be a new dawn and new opportunities for DJs that are willing to work with venues and help build the community and culture around their events. Now, I'll use a couple of my students as examples. So Martina and Stella, shout out to them, and I'll link in their social media, like their profile accounts below, right? So check that out. Definitely worth looking at. But here's the thing, pre-COVID, they didn't know how to DJ. So during COVID, they got my course and they're both now very confident behind the decks, right? But in the meantime, before clubs open, I have seen them doing live streams and as an opportunity, doing live streams as an opportunity to build their experiences. Let's face it, right? Live streaming right now, it's huge and it's a great platform to practice, okay? Puts you under more slight time pressure. But as well as that, both of them have reached out to venues and both of them have lined up shows with venues post-COVID. And better yet, I see both of them posting on behalf of the venues and the promoters, and this in turn helps out the promoters. And the more you work like you're on a team, the more you're going to be considered part of that team when it all comes good. You'll be in, right? It's your chance. Now, this is me personally though, talking directly from my experience as well as DJing every single week for almost 20 years. I did run clubs every week from January 1999 right through to at least 2017, and I understand the world of venues and promoters like the back of my hand. Now, I know you may have some haters out there that may say, well, how would this guy know about the UK clubbing scene? But I don't need to know about an individual scene because in my opinion, they're going to be run by people and all people have the same needs and desires, and we're all, personally, I believe, one and the same. So, and also, besides, I already see my students killing it on a global scale, and I honestly believe more than that, I know this, right? That post-COVID, not only will people be eager to get out again and socialize, which will bring its own rebirth to the culture at parties, but venues will be open to new DJs, and I feel there's going to be a ton of opportunities for new DJs that are willing to get behind the events and be part of the community and culture of the live clubbing and event scene. Now, this is how all the big guys started anyway, right? And it reminds me of the quote, right? Think global, have big goals, right? Think, have big goals. Yeah, think, Tomorrowland eventually and all that, but act locally, right? Now, this is honestly the perfect time for you. Now, just a quick compassionate note though for the DJs that have to theoretically start again. I hear you, right? More than you know. Chances are you've done all the hard yards in the past, built a name for yourself. And if you do want back in, honestly, it probably won't be that hard for you. But my advice is don't just expect to get back in. You've got to support the event as much as you can, and also think, what can you do to help the promoters, as opposed to, that promoter owes me, man, he better take care of me, I've been so loyal to them over the years. Don't think like that, right? If you do, you're probably going to push them away as they've been doing it just as tough, maybe tougher. So instead, get clear on what you want, and think, what are you willing to do to get back in, right? Now, anyway, if you're keen to learn more about the club scene and how to break into the club scene in a big way, I do have a bonus club pack course, which is included in my Club Ready course with over 30 videos. It's its own course, right? And it basically just makes 100% sure that you're club ready. It's going to teach you how to prepare for club shows. And I also include a battle plan on how to get shows, exactly what to say to venues, and what it takes to get your foot in the door. And once in, how to stay there and build a name for yourself as a DJ. So that's free with my Club Ready DJ course for a limited time, so check that out. I'll link that in below. But honestly, being a DJ and playing live is one of the best feelings in the world, and I'm certain I can get you there. But better than that, once my students, right, like say they've finished the course, I ask them to send me a mixtape showcasing their skills so I can personally give them feedback, tips and advice on that, right? And I'll be honest, these mixtapes that are coming through, they're class, man. Like it's even inspired me to personally do my best to create opportunities for these students. See, this is all in the works. It's part of what I'm doing up here. This is a constantly building thing for me, right? And here's the thing, I just want to help my students as much as I can, get opportunities. And I stay in close contact with all my students. And I feel when it comes to building the culture and community around DJing, no one's coming close. But anyway, I guess that's the advantage of being one of the smaller ones coming through. But anyway, here's the thing. If you honestly think the club scene is dead, think again. Sure, it has taken a step back, but it's going to come back, but this time with a much bigger emphasis on the local scene, which is huge news for you, because that's where you'll get in, in the local scene. Now, sure, it may feel slow at first, but it's honestly your chance. So I guess it comes down to, are you willing and even excited to be part of the building period? And when you think about it, the chances are that many of the veteran DJs that held residencies before are going to answer no to this, as they have been there and done it, and they've got no interest to step back and start again, which means there are going to be so many opportunities for new DJs, which also means new people at events, which also means a fresh sound and a new aliveness at parties and events worldwide, as we begin to appreciate more what these events stand for. So I personally feel an opportunity to connect like-minded people through music and atmosphere. That's what it's always been about for me. Now, you may even decide, right, that maybe you want to start and run your own club. Like, again, some promoters will also have fallen off, and venues will be looking for people to run events as well as DJs, right? So the one thing, if you are interested in running events, it is a slightly different mindset, as you will need to not only have a concept for the event, but you're going to need to spread the word about that event big time and create as much awareness and excitement for your parties, assuring they're successful. But again, let's say you do start your own event. Will you book the DJs you've never heard of that want to charge you lots of money and say they're so good? Or the DJs that are willing to jump on board and help you achieve your goals as a team? Community is going to be the emphasis here in a big way. And the more I think about it, the more I know this is going to bring a lot of opportunities. Now, I know this sounds lame, right? But I found it to be true many, many times, and that is, it's always darkest before the dawn. Or even, right, I've got my own version of this, and that is when I'm teaching people to beat match, what I find is they move the jog wheel one way, let's say that sounds bad, okay? They're all in your headphones, of course. So they go the other way, and as it gets closer, they start getting unsure. And I always say to them, if you're unsure, one more, right? It's usually just a little bit further than you think, and I think that applies to life, right? I've used it so many times with this, even what I'm doing here, and that is, when I first started, it was kind of tough, and I started thinking, if I'm unsure, and I had this sense of uncertainty, can I do this? And then I'm like, no, push through, it means I'm close. And then, so yeah, push through. If you're unsure, one more, keep going. And as Scarface says, I'm full of quotes today, the world is yours. So instead of being like everyone else and saying, I'll believe it when I see it, I invite you to be an optimist and believe it first, and then watch it come into your experience. Like, fuck, seeing is believing. It's believing is seeing. So take responsibility for the way you think, because your interpretation of COVID and the aftermath of COVID will directly affect the opportunities that come for it. So anyway, if you're interested in the running the club side of things, like being an event promoter, I've also included a section on this and a battle plan on starting and running your own club events in my Club Ready course, right? So that's Club Ready course where I package everything I've learned in my 20 years of being involved in the scene. But anyway, in the meantime, there are a ton of live streaming opportunities in our group, like the Club Ready Tribe. So honestly, if playing live and breaking into the DJ scene has been a dream for you, I personally feel there has never been a better time, and more than that, a better chance to get your foot in the door than now. And basically, I guess it comes down to, what do you believe is possible? And again, right, as Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So anyway, I love that quote. But anyway, thanks again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe, as I have some really cool quality content coming up. Like, you know, you're not going to want to miss. I'm doing it all here with the goal of not only helping you through COVID, but also answering common issues people face, and also giving you as much help and inspiration as I can. But remember, this is all foreplay stuff, just me messing around. For the people willing to go, for the people willing to go all the way, I invite you to check out my course, where I've actually at the moment got 5 DJ courses all packaged right now for the price of one. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, love you all big time. And if you take me on as your teacher and mentor, I'm going to hold your hand through the whole way through everything, I promise you. So anyway, thanks again, guys. And if you're new to my channel and course, welcome to the Club Ready Tribe.